Ever since India proudly announced that it had carried out surgical strikes across the line of control, people have been searching for details. The government has been very wary of putting those details out. On the newsroom tonight, we're going to show you the inside story of Operation Surgical Strike, how this entire operation was planned and executed. And then I'll have General G.D. Bakshi and Jaidev Ranade explain this operation from a military and intelligence perspective to our viewers. Sit back for the next few minutes and watch this special report. Early morning, 18 September 2016. A Jaish-e-Mohammed Fidain attack in Uri at the administrative station of the Indian Army's 12th Brigade. 19 Indian soldiers dead. A nation outraged. The threshold of tolerance breached. Data on the GPS sets recovered from the attackers pointed towards Pakistan. 2 local guides were apprehended. They revealed how the Pakistani army had helped the Fidain sneak into India. 3 days later, on September 21st, Abdul Basit, the Pakistani High Commissioner to India, was summoned by Foreign Secretary Jaishankar. Evidence was shared, evidence that was met with denial. The next day, Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif made a highly provocative speech at the United Nations General Assembly. Hizbul commander Burhan Wani was hailed as a Pakistani hero.
Burhan Wani, the young leader murdered by Indian forces, has emerged as a symbol of the latest Kashmiri intifada.
The Indian government decided it had had enough. On September 22nd, the same day as Nawaz Sharif's speech, Army Chief General Dalbir Singh Suhag and Director General Military Operations Lieutenant General Ranbir Singh briefed Prime Minister Modi and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval on the range of military options available to India to retaliate. The media in India had already started talking of a revenge strike. Pakistan sensed trouble. In Pakistan, radar systems along the line of control and the international boundary were activated. The latest Swedish Saab 2000 early airborne warning and control aircraft was deployed to monitor the airspace above Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. On September 23rd, the Prime Minister went to the Army's underground war room in Raisina Hills South Block. The 3 service chiefs briefed the Prime Minister and the National Security Advisor. Secretary RAW Rajendra Khanna, Director Intelligence Bureau Dineshwar Sharma and NTRO Chief Alok Joshi were in attendance. Hundreds of kilometers above the Earth, cameras on ISRO's Earth observation satellites were recalibrated to point at Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Unmanned aerial vehicles began close monitoring of terror launch pads in POK. On the ground, across the heavily defended line of control, RAW deployed human assets very close to 8 demarcated launch pads in POK. They were tasked with sending constant updates on movements at these pads. Inside Pakistan, in Rawalpindi and Islamabad, other assets of the Research and Analysis Wing were activated. Orders were issued to closely monitor movements of Pakistan Army Chief General Raheel Sharif and Rawalpindi-based 10 Corps Commander Lieutenant General Malik Zafar Iqbal. The force commander of northern areas was another general whose movements were put under close observation. RAW's brief was simple: keep a hawk's eye on what key formation commanders are doing. Report back on any unusual meetings. In Delhi, mobile phones of the 3 service chiefs and heads of the intelligence agencies were switched off. Their cellular footprints disappeared across mobile networks, making it difficult for their movements to be tracked by any Pakistani agent in India. All meetings from this time on were held incognito, without uniform, no staff cars, and far away from Raisina Hill. The deception was complete. Commanding officers of 4 and 9 para-battalions of the Army's Special Forces were briefed about their mission. They were asked to handpick their most lethal commandos. Mi-17 transport helicopters began ferrying the commandos and their equipment to forward areas along the line of control, where they waited, primed for the go signal. It was the 6 Bihar and 10 Dogra battalions of the Indian Army that had suffered casualties in the Uri attack. 6 Bihar had lost 16 and 10 Dogra's 3 soldiers in the attack by Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists. Both battalions were baying for revenge, and they were not going to be denied their chance. Northern Army Commander Lieutenant General D.S. Huda tasked the battalions to deploy their Ghatak commandos for this crucial mission. The 6 Bihar and 10 Dogra Ghatak teams joined the strike force at launch locations along the line of control. On September 26, NSA Doval held a crucial meeting with the 3 service chiefs and intelligence heads. Operational details were finalized. There were going to be 8 synchronized raids along a 250-kilometer arc. Terrain held by 3 divisions of the Pakistani Army would be infiltrated into. The commandos were to penetrate up to a depth of 500 meters to 3 kilometers across the line of control. This was going to be the most audacious cross-border special forces attack in the history of the Indian Army. It was a near moonless night, the night before Amavasya, when minutes after the midnight hour of 27th-28th September, the signal came for Operation Surgical Strike to launch. Across the line of control, Indian Army's elite commando teams began slipping through the barricades, disappearing into the night on the other side. Pakistani radars and early airborne warning aircraft were unable to detect the intrusions as most of the commandos infiltrated on foot. One team of 30 para-commandos, which was to penetrate the deepest into POK, was airdropped using special high-altitude, high-opening parachutes. The Hai-Ho technique, where paratroopers jump from up to 35,000 feet above the surface, was specially chosen to evade the reach of Pakistani radars. Jumping from high altitude meant that even the noise of parachutes opening would not get picked up by land-based listening devices. The commandos had GPS devices to land with pinpoint precision very close to their target, a terror launch pad deep inside POK. Despite heightened alertness on the Pakistani side, the 8 commando teams reached their targets without being detected. The para-commandos were armed with Travor 21 and AK-47 assault rifles, and also rocket-propelled guns and Russian thermobaric rockets. Snipers with silencers were used to silence sentries at the militant camps. After this, the commandos made a quick incision into the camps and opened a barrage of fire on the unwary targets. The commandos went in and recovered rocket launchers and machine guns from the militant shelters. The objective of the Indian Army had been achieved. The Ghatak platoon of the Dogra and Bihar battalions were deployed to tackle Jaish launch pads closest to the line of control to exact revenge and restore their military honor. The entire operation was filmed on helmet-mounted cameras used by the Special Forces commandos. The paras also took photos on their still cameras. From the skies, UAVs and the low-orbit NTRO satellite filmed the entire operation. At 2:30 a.m., the stillness of the night was shattered as Indian artillery units opened up a diversionary barrage to confuse the Pakistani defense forces. Pinpoint artillery fire using Krasnopol ammunition began pounding Pakistani posts. The Pakistani army thought that an overt assault by the Indian forces was coming and started retaliating heavily. In the noise and confusion along the line of control, the Indian commandos began slipping back, unchallenged. The enemy had been deceived, and the Pakistani army had no idea what had hit them. Confronted by India's artillery barrage, Pakistani troops scurried to their bunkers, leaving the terrain clear for the Special Forces commandos to return to the Indian side, safe and sound. One commando stepped on a landmine during the exit operation, but apart from this injury, there was not a single Indian casualty. In military terms, it was a near-perfect textbook operation.
The Indian Army conducted surgical strikes last night. During these counter-terrorist operations, significant casualties have been caused to the terrorists and those who are trying to support them.
By 9 a.m. on September the 28th, all the raiders were back at the base. A cabinet committee on security was called to take stock of the raid. Soon after 11 a.m., the Director General Military Operations, as per protocol, called up his Pakistani counterpart and informed him about the successful Indian raid. This is Rahul Kamal in New Delhi reporting for India Today. Okay, so I've got these flags of India, and I want to bring General G.D. Bakshi. He's also the editor of the Indian Military Review, has put together a detailed account of these strikes. You can read it in the IMR as well. General Bakshi, if you can just join me, because this is the India Today War Room Sand model. Reminds you a bit like the kind of models that you've seen during your army days, sir?
Very nostalgic.
Very nostalgic. Okay, so let's start. And I want our camera to come in so that you can get a closer line. These red dots are the line of control. They denote the line of control. So we're going to show one by one, 250-kilometer arc. So where do I start from, sir?
Put it over here.
Okay, so very close to Nowshera.
Right.
This is where the line of control actually starts. Just around, this is generally in the Jammu area, from where the line of control starts. This is where the first incursion took place, the infiltration across.
And go right up till here.
Okay, so where do you want me to put the next one? This is Kale.
Yeah.
So there were multiple incursions on this side?
Yes.
So you want me to put more than one flag, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so there are a total of 8 incursions. And where would you want me to put the last one, sir?
Put this one would be somewhere here.
Okay.
This one would be
across
here, because
Kale.
this is where the main strikes took place. That's right. Not to worry. You know,
which river is this, sir? The Blue River?
This is the Kishan Ganga
this is
there,
the Kishan
and this
Ganga.
is the Jhelum.
So we've actually gone across.
That's right.
And in one of those instances, now this is very significant because if you can see over here, it starts from roughly where the line of control starts in the lower regions, going all the way up to Kale. And a 250-kilometer arc.
That's right. Rahul, this is where I'd like to point out. You know, there's a lot of hot air that we have been doing raids before. So what's so new? That's precisely what I want to point out to the people. The raids that you did earlier in 2011, in 2013, in 2014 were sub-tactical at the platoon section level.
No, so let me demilitarize that jargon. Essentially a commanding officer deciding for reasons which are local
reaction.
This is a raid that I want. Or a brigade commander who has special forces with him, sending them across.
So this is locally driven, goes to 500, 600, 700 meters depth at most. You know, in the first one you killed 3, in the second one you killed 1, wounded 1, and in the last one in 2014 you killed 10. Right? You used your Ikhwanis, you used other forces which were deniable. Totally deniable, even if they got caught.
Ikhwanis are surrendered terrorists. Just trying to ensure that we don't get caught up with all the military jargon. Yes, sir.
Now, you see the difference. This is a set of synchronized raids that have gone over a frontage of 250 kilometers of the line of control. You know, you have reprogrammed your NTRO low Earth orbit satellites to keep the entire area under surveillance for 7 days. Your drones, your Herons, your searchers have been circling this area along with the human assets. you know, which the RAW had put in
No,
there.
so I want to focus for a moment with Jaidev Ranade.
Let me just sort of give it to you, so that, you know, you have kept that area under focus, and then you have mounted a deception operation. Don't forget, Rahul, you launched this operation with the enemy on 100% alert.
Absolutely.
And
knowing that there will be retaliation.
Waiting for you to come, you know, so you had to keep him guessing, you had to wrong foot him, you had to, you know, use deception. So they have, you know, he had his, as you very rightly brought out, SAB 200 AEW, you know, aircraft flying, flying over here for surveillance. He had his drones out, he had his radars on. So how do you give him, you know? So you tried to draw his attention towards this side. His dominant perception was that you will do a fire assault. So you reinforce the dominant perception. And you know, they have swallowed this hook, line and sinker. In Bhimber, in Hot Spring, in the others, we fired with our artillery, right? And we put raids close to the LC. So his attention was diverted towards this side. We moved 4, you know, of these of our attack helicopters, our Mi-35s. They were flying in this area, you know, very prominently, so that they would be picked up by this thing. The Mi-17 troop lift helicopters were flying in this area very prominently, so that they would be picked by the enemy SAB 200 airborne early warning aircraft and his radars. And the strikes have actually gone mostly in this area. 4 and 9 para commandos, some of your best men, some of the best special forces who have been winning competitions globally, worldwide, with the other special forces in tow. They were all able to slip in. 8 teams of 30 each have slipped in all across this 250-kilometer arc, right? They have gone into their targets, crawled and got behind, been in position. And when they were sure that these were filled up, these launch pads were filled up with the terrorists who were all sound asleep, they saw the sentries, they took them out with their sniper rifles, silenced sniper rifles.
And that's one of the reasons why people didn't hear noise.
Nobody heard a thing.
The Pakistani army is saying, you didn't hear, that shows that nothing happened. The reality is that's the way the special forces operate.
That's the way the special forces operate.
You're not supposed to hear them.
You know, you don't know what hit you. You don't know what hit you, and that's the beauty of this operation. Then they let them have it with their Carl Gustavs, with their thermobaric Russian weapons, with their underbarrel grenade launchers, and of course their Traver assault rifles and the AK-47, the trusty old AK-47. They slaughtered these guys up in here.
But I want to focus for a moment with Jaidev Ranade on the human intelligence assets on the ground, because each of these operations that were carried out beyond the Kishan Ganga, also here in this area, all of them required people on the ground looking at these terror camps, reporting back to India, informing people about the movement of terrorists over there, and also the fact, as that report mentioned, the fact that we put the army chief under surveillance, Rahil Sharif, we put the 10 Corps commander under surveillance, the force commander of the northern areas under surveillance, shows how hugely we've built up our intelligence capabilities over just a few years ago. Take, for example, during the Kargil war, we had no idea about the casualties taking place because we didn't have assets on the other side.
Well, I won't comment on that last remark of yours, but however, as far as this is concerned, I would like to make 2 points. One, the entire planning shows the level of sophistication that we have used. We have combined satellite, electronic, technical and human intelligence assets available to the country at large. That means all the national intelligence outfits, it was blended together and used. Second was the surveillance that we put people under. Again, it would be a multiplicity of sources that we have used, and I don't think they would have stopped only with the army chief and the ISI chief, etc. There would have been others who would have been placed under surveillance, including, if I'm not mistaken, and here I'm guessing, but I'm sure I'm almost right, are the chiefs of the various religious tanzeems. They also must have been under watch to see what they're doing, including their henchmen. The other thing I would like to bring out is what you mentioned in passing, the counterintelligence measures that we took here to see that their eyes and ears could not detect that we are planning something.
I just want to repeat that
I
for our
think
viewers
it was
in
done
case
very
you missed
well.
it. The fact that all the army chiefs, the Air Force chief, the Navy chief, the intelligence agencies chief, the RAW chief, the IB chief, also the NTRO chief, all of them turning off their mobile phones days before the operation. None of the meetings taking place in South Block, in Raisina Hill or in North Block, taking place in safe houses, staff cars not being used, no lal batti, no uniform. This is what happened when we detonated the nuclear weapon.
Exactly.
That time too, APJ Abdul Kalam and his core team went into a similar deceptive mode, and that's exactly what we've done once again.
It was a highly professional level of planning. It was, I think, probably unsurpassed. Blending of intelligence resources, and as General Bakshi just said, this has not been done before, and that is what we have seen. This kind of strategic planning for this strike indicates that it was a deliberate, planned operation over a large area, and I think they've come out with flying
Let's
colors.
take a look at some of the weapon systems that were used, and the one most audacious incursion seems to have been done through high altitude, high opening parachutes, and I want General Bakshi to explain that to us. We're just going to show you in a moment the kind of weapon systems that were used in this assault. Let's take it one by one. First and foremost, we had airborne aerial vehicles up in the skies, keeping a very close eye on all aerial movement across the Pakistan occupied Kashmir LOC. So we're keeping an eye on what the enemy is doing. Remember, this is when Pakistan was also spooked in Gilgit and
There were
Baltistan.
two air exercises at that time on. Pakistani exercise High Mark,
Yes.
which was on at that time, and we had our exercise Talon. So we
Talon.
were following them very closely, you know. The other thing I'd like to just point out...
I just want to take you through our weapon systems.
Weapons.
So one by one, we have enough time, don't worry.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got aerial reconnaissance vehicles up in the sky, and then these high altitude, high opening parachutes. Now, explain these to our viewers, General Bakshi.
You know, there are high altitude, high opening parachutes. There are high altitude, low opening parachutes. These are ram air maneuverable parachutes. From this side of the border, you can be dropped and you go slant range across. You leave no radar signature. So whether you have the AEW, you have anything else, our boys will get through. Our boys will get through. They'll land pinpoint with their GPS. Silent. There is no engine. There is no nothing. It's just the parachute floating down in a pitch dark night. And that boy will navigate with his GPS to pinpoint this thing. So it is said that one of the platoons which is going in the deepest, I mean, they have used possibly the HAHO, extraction, the ram air maneuverable parachutes to get into location without...
So you actually jump off a transport aircraft at about
well inside your territory.
35,000 feet. And then you're able to maneuver.
You're able to maneuver and get down with your ram air.
With the help of GPS devices.
You go slant like this. You go slant over the line of control, and with that what happens is there is no radar signature, there is no nothing, and you land pinpoint wherever you want.
What this also does, General Bakshi, spooks the enemy. He doesn't know whether to look behind him, to look in front, to look towards the skies. It's an Amavasya ki raat.
Like we are Sarvatra, we can come from any direction and all over, and the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Till now Pakistan thinks it was just a fire assault on these positions, and even their after action reports are saying we suffered due to their artillery shelling, and then they started responding with artillery, and you hear all this thing. It's worked beautifully.
Literally like ghosts going in and ghosts coming out.
Ghosts coming out. You don't know what's hit you, and you've been hit, and then these boys have exfiltrated without a scratch.
And the other weapon systems, the Tavor assault rifle, also the Carl Gustav rocket launchers, highly precise Swedish weapon, sir?
Swedish weapon.
Swedish weapon, very deadly, fired by two soldiers at one time. Then you've got these thermobaric rockets as well.
These are devastating, and the Pakistanis, if they have one thing they're scared of, it's being burned to death. The jihadis. I mean, psychologically, this is a huge, it is catastrophic for that guy to be burned to death. No virgins in heaven. And
he's not getting to heaven.
He's not getting to heaven.
No, the other thing I want to speak to Jaidev Ranade about is the fact that you're also telling Pakistan that beware. If you're striking us, don't think we'll sit back, we'll suffer. You've hit us hard for long enough. Now if you target us, the message that's going out from this complex, Ajit Doval, the Prime Minister, Manohar Parrikar, all of them together sending out a very muscular message. You mess with us, we take you down.
I think they're going a step further. They're saying you begin to mess with us, we're going to take you out.
Before you can do it.
Before you can do it. It's a preemption which might come next. As it is during this strike, they took out jihadi elements who were assembling at various launch pads before they had launched the attack on us. Imagine if they had come and then we had reacted. So we have already delivered a message that the next time we might act even faster, and you can't do anything about it.
Okay, stay with me, gentlemen. We're slipping into a quick break. We have a lot more to talk about when we come back, because now apparently there is this tussle going on, a tussle between the two Sharifs in Pakistan, neither of whom are Sharif, mind you, General Raheel Sharif and Nawaz Sharif, over who gets to pick who the next army chief is. Remember, Raheel Sharif is due to retire, or at least that's what he's telling the world, and the decision about who gets to be the next army chief is very crucial to determining what happens in Pakistan and consequently what happens in the India Today war room.